Welcome to the Hardcore MBA podcast.
Hello, welcome to this latest edition of Hardcore MBA. I am your host, Matthew Turner, the author of The Success Mistake. And I'm joined today by Greg Hickman, who is one of the main guys over at Systemly. We'll be getting into that shortly, but if you want to know more about this episode, about Greg, about anything that we mention, show notes, all those links, head on over to hardcoremba.com. In the search bar, search for Greg Hickman, and that wonderful show notes will pop on up and you will have everything that you need. But first of all, before we dive into anything else, Greg, welcome. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, I am so excited. Well, Greg is a great guy when it comes to marketing automation in particular. If there's anything about funnels that this guy doesn't know about, then it doesn't exist, because he is the man. We're going to be diving into a little bit more about that shortly. But you've had a somewhat varied past. You've done a little bit of all sorts over the years. I interviewed you for my book, The Successful Mistake, and I remember you told me a story about how you first got into mobile marketing. I know you've gone down that route a bit more, but you're now focusing on the online marketing funnels.
Yep.
We're going to get into that in just a second, but Greg, can you just give us a bit of an idea of how you've spent the last sort of 6 months of your life, just to give us a bit of a snapshot of who you are today and what you're working on? We were talking about your personal world just before you hit record. I mean, congratulations, you've got a little 3-month-old bundle. So, tell us a little bit more about fatherhood, but also about some of the work you're currently doing.
Yeah, I mean, last 6 months, from a business perspective, as you mentioned, like last time we spoke, I had a completely different business, but have since, Systemly is a marketing funnel and automation service company, and the last 6 months has actually been a little bit of a transition out of done for you service, at least to the extent that we were doing it, into our own training programs and consulting programs, where it's a little bit more of a done with you funnel and automation implementation program, and kind of making that turn so that we could be a little bit more scalable ourselves. So that's really been the focus the last 6 months. Did a beta program, worked with a bunch of people on, getting them through kind of our framework and our methodology, and now really in the process of taking that to a larger audience. Obviously, also in the last 6 months, we had our first son, so now I'm balancing the entrepreneur side with the being a dad and, still being a good husband side. So there's definitely a juggle there. But, having, as you could probably imagine, since you have kids, the amount of clarity and focus that has come from having my son has actually helped our business focus as well, which has been really interesting and almost refreshing in many ways, because you only have so many hours in the day, and that means you can't do all the things that you wanted to do. So the way in which you prioritize and the way in which we've prioritized things has definitely dramatically changed for the better in the last 6 months, for sure. 3 specifically.
Absolutely, I totally relate. And whenever you have a kid, it always throws a great deal of chaos into your life, and people always, I think, could I possibly be an entrepreneur and be a father or a mother? But if there's one thing that children do, is it just creates that clarity, and you have to focus. You don't have a choice. You have to really sort of laser in on what is my most important thing. How can I get this important thing done, and how can I scale that? And it's really interesting to hear you talk about you moving your own business into that sort of now scaling growth period, because Systemly is still a relatively young company, around about 18 months, 2 years, I want to say.
August, the September will be 2 years.
2 years. So it's great to see that within 18 months, 2 years, you went from, still very much doing a lot of the heavy lifting yourself, but you've validated, you've proved it, and now it's like, let's scale, because there are only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Well, I'm really excited to kind of get into some of the marketing automation tips, because, well, you are the guy with all the wisdom. I've certainly learned a great deal about it. And anyone who wants to check out more, system.ly, so Systemly with a little dot in there, so many resources regarding the tools to use for marketing automation, the do's and the don'ts. And I specifically want to go into some of the do's and the don'ts today. But to begin with, can you just give us a bit of an overview of your own journey into marketing automation, how you became this expert, and most important of all, the impact it has had on your own business over the years?
Yeah, for sure. So, when I made the transition from what I was doing in mobile into this, I was using Infusionsoft, specifically a marketing automation tool, to help streamline the delivery of our kind of consulting and service for my mobile agency. And I saw, the power of, how it can really streamline the fulfillment and the delivery of that experience. And, from there, I was like, okay, well, how can I started getting more excited by automation, but we weren't doing that for our clients. And I kind of hit a wall with my other company, and my friend challenged me to see if I could offer marketing automation services to others. So I did that, and that's obviously where Systemly was born. But really the only way that I have ever known to accelerate how fast I knew something was to roll my sleeves up. So I was always fascinated with how a lot of the mentors and people that I followed had built businesses online, and you can only see so much from the outside. And I understood that they were using automation, but there were just a lot of other systems and process outside of automation that I could not see, and I know I needed to emulate those things. So basically, I just went behind the scenes with these people, started helping them with their automation and their Infusionsoft, and I got to see the inner workings of these businesses that were going from 6 to even 7+ figures, and what funnels they were creating, what automation they had, how they structured their team, what processes they leverage internally, and that obviously in turn kind of helped us know what to implement, and we just kept doing it for other people, and they'd bring their ideas to us, and we'd be able to implement them. So over time, having worked with a handful of different businesses now, we're able to see and identify what works and really help assess how others should be building their business. So we, as a doctor, we can go in and say, all right, look at your offer, look at how you're currently doing things, and we can prescribe a particular type of funnel or a particular type of process that will make that person as scalable as possible, using all of the tools and technology. So that's really kind of where this happened. And for our own business, we're only a team of 4, and we have a lot that happens from a communication perspective, getting feedback, getting referrals, getting testimonials, and all this stuff that is done in an automatic way without having to have human touch points. And we can do all that with automation. So, that's essentially what we're trying to do. We want to be able to help people use the marketing automation technology to enable their sales process, their marketing process, and their fulfillment process in a way that they now have leverage, right? There's a lot of people that are going launch to launch, and it's tiring and exhausting, and I never want to do that. I want something that's reliable, predictable, and continually getting better over time.
I mean, it goes back to what we were just talking about earlier. There's only so many hours in the day, and as you're wanting to scale your business, as you get a product that you validate, the idea of being able to put it on autopilot, it's just huge, because it means that you can write an email once and know that it's going to be sent to those new people as and when and that perfect time. But with anything, there's the right and the wrong way of going about something like this. You can certainly use it for evil, and you can certainly use it with a rather sort of poor hat on. So we're going to dive into some of the best practices. But just before we do, it must have been an incredible experience for yourself to go in and just see how these, the best of the best work. I've written a book all about other people making mistakes, and I largely did so I could learn from other people and not make the same mistakes. It must have been a similar process for you to be able to go in, see how everything worked. It must have, fast-tracked your progression by ridiculous amounts.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and I think one of the biggest takeaways across all these businesses, from the outside, things look a lot more complex granted, some things are messy and done more manually, but like the business model, the systems and the process and how they convert people, very simple systems, right? It's just that they're connected in a way that works for that person. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is like we see from the outside, what people are doing, and we try to mimic it, but we don't really see the why and, the inner workings behind it that make it unique to that person, which is why it's not working for someone else, right? And they just need to be able to have, and that's where we've been able to have success is, clients come in and they're like, I want to do exactly what this person's doing. And we tell them that it's not a good idea. They do it and they realize it. And then we can kind of create their own experience that's right for them. And so that's pretty much what we've been doing.
That's a really important thing.
Acceleration.
It teaches you more than just about like the how of everything works, but you get to understand the why and like the real sort of foundational things. And if you're able to look at how the best of the best are doing the foundational things, you're really setting yourself up for success. So let's dive into some of those best practices, because, well, to those listening and watching, they have probably heard a lot about marketing automations and sales automations before. It's something that is covered often in the online space. And for the most part, we have all used email marketing tools and other automation softwares to some degree. So we know about funnels and we know why we need them. And we also love the idea of evergreen and passive income and all that good stuff. But the truth is, most people do get it wrong. So with your experiences, both looking from the inside and the outside looking in, what are maybe two of the three biggest mistakes that you see people make just time and time again that drives you insane, and that you wish you could just shake them by the head and go, do not do this anymore?
Yeah. A couple are, one is really essentially just copying other people. And really what that results in is building things with the wrong intention. And so what does that really mean is we see a lot of people just like they build one piece of the funnel and they think that's all they need. But really what marketing automation is, at least in our opinion or our definition, is using technology to enable the sales and marketing strategy. And a lot of people have different sales and marketing strategies, but one thing we do know is that there's multiple touch points in the customer journey. Like not everybody is just ready to buy, right? So one of the things that we focus on, so one is the mistake that people make is that they just build one piece of the puzzle, and they do that because they're watching other people, but then that leaves other pieces that aren't getting built that are really important to the customer journey. So that leads into kind of the other mistake, which is people treat all leads the same, and all leads aren't the same. They're actually different. There's 3 different types of customers. We've adopted the same language as Derek Halpern in that there's the oblivious, the afflicted, and the informed. Think of that as cold, warm, hot, respectively. And each type of customer, you need to speak to them differently. The way in which they're going to enter and engage within your funnel is different, and what you're telling them and how you're telling them that in relation to the conversation of moving them from they don't know about the pain to they're ready to buy. Like there's multiple things happening in there, and it's really a combination of systems that are connected together, helping that person move one step closer to the point of a transaction. And so what happens, people will treat all of their leads the same. They'll build one funnel, like a webinar, and they're going to shove all their leads into that funnel, and they'll have like maybe at best 20% convert, and that's 80% of people that aren't buying, and 20% is if you're really good. A lot of people, it's like 5, so like that's 95% of people that aren't buying, and you're not doing anything with. And really what it comes down to, it's not just the price, because they didn't buy because it was too expensive or they weren't ready to spend money. It's because you didn't do your job in getting them ready to buy, because you didn't give yourself enough time to ready them based on where they're at in their own journey. They might have never heard of you before. The first time they met you is 60 minutes on a webinar, and then you present this offer that they didn't even know they had a problem that this offer solves. So we've been designing customer experiences, client journeys. How do you acquire someone, engage with them, nurture them, and convert them in over the course of whatever that lifetime is, and really having the systems in place to kind of capture and kind of collect the people that fall through the cracks, right? We don't really want any cracks, but not everyone's going to take the action that we want. So we need to have systems in place to catch those and then do something with them. So two biggest mistakes is designing a funnel without the intention and treating all leads the same by only building one funnel.
I suppose it comes down to, it's like you were saying there, the idea of nurturing. People see, these big people doing a funnel, like doing some kind of launch sequence or a webinar, and they see that it works. And they think, wow, I could do that. I can do a webinar like that. I could basically copy their sales sequence word for word, and it should work well. But what they forget is that those people have been nurturing their audience for, weeks, months, in some cases years. And action without nurture isn't really going to work that effectively. And people forget the whole nurturing side of things.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, now more than ever, and, I think kind of the way things are moving forward is like people expect transparency. It's just the way the business is done for the most case. And, people resonate with those that are transparent and authentic and that they know, like, and trust. And like, while a webinar is really great and can build, that level of know, like, and trust and make sales, that it's only going to work for a certain type of person that's at a certain stage in that journey. And you're leaving so much money on the table and obviously the opportunity to impact more people by not doing these things. So if you can understand where people are at, we like to call them pre-customers, right? Like, they're not a lead, they're a pre-customer, because if we designed our funnel with intention, like, I can go out to people that I know are going to be my ideal client once I can make them aware of the pain and or problem that they've been experiencing. They just weren't aware of it yet, right? And that's really what the whole journey is about, is how do we make someone aware? How do we educate them and show them that there's a solution and that there's steps to get there? And then how do we accelerate that by giving them, our service or our offer or our course that really gives and accelerates that through obviously speed, access, or some level of status. And that's really building multiple systems that talk to each other and move people through this journey.
Yeah, and with all the technology and all the software these days, it's not as difficult as some people imagine, but it is. As a premise, it's very simple. You make someone aware of their problem, you then educate them how to solve their problem, and then you basically prove to them that you are the person who can solve it. Be it a product or a service, whatever it may be. And it really doesn't matter whether we're talking about a coach here, a consultant, a consumer product, B2B. The premise is pretty much the same. The strategy remains the same. Throughout
exactly, yeah.
So let's say that we've got somebody who's, they've got the marketing software, they're using something, whether it's Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign, ConvertKit, whatever it may be. They've got these funnels. They know that it's not performing as well as they can, and now they realize, no, it's because I've been treating all my leads the same. What are maybe one or two things that they can start doing in the not too distant future to take that step back, to right some of their wrongs, and to start doing everything in the right way? Yeah,
so two things. One, I think that you need to experiment with different language as it relates to where someone is at in the journey. So understanding those three different types of leads. If you have been, say, using only a webinar, you've most likely been talking to people that are already aware of the pain, already aware of the problem, and they just don't want to tolerate it anymore. They're aware of different solutions out there, and they're kind of just there to make the decision, right? That's like one type of person. But there's people that, the afflicted, who are aware of the pain, they're feeling the pain, but they don't have enough information yet to make an educated decision on what solution is right for them. So I would encourage people to create a piece of content that is a little bit more geared towards the solution seeker that's in like the earlier part of that journey. Like, they just figured out that they needed a funnel, okay, well, what do they need to know now, right? Like, if I just learned that I need a funnel, I'm probably not going to go pay someone to give me a funnel, because I need to like understand what a funnel is, why it's important, how it works, what are the pieces of a funnel. So whatever it is that you're selling off of your webinar, if that's what you're using, look at someone who's maybe just discovered this pain or problem and create content that shows them steps that move them closer to being ready to be on your webinar.
And
right.
I'm guessing that content is going to be a bit more digestible. We're talking like guides here, maybe a video series, something along those lines.
Yep. So at this stage, they're likely to spend a little bit more time, but not tons of time. They're probably not ready to buy yet. The ones that we see work the most are like a free course, which could be video or email, a challenge. Those are really popular these days, or like a really in-depth guide. We do see a lot more people consuming video content more than guides. So if you do a guide, maybe think about like a video walkthrough of the guide or something. But it is something that is like multiple touch points, not just one thing, right? Like there's depth, and you kind of show them like the pieces of the puzzle, multiple stages of whatever it is you're teaching, right? So like if it's a funnel, like I could be talking about, hey, there's different types of leads. I could be talking about there's different types of tools. You need lead magnets. You need shopping carts. You need, the automation tool. All of the things, like starting to connect all of the pieces together before I bring them on the webinar. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is what we've found, like we've created like our own way of tagging. So in marketing automation, a lot of the power and flexibility and potential to automate these things comes in how you use tags. And a lot of people come to us and they'll have worked with 5 different consultants and they have no tag naming convention or system, and it's really messy. So when they go back to look at these things, it's really hard to tell what they're doing, are they working, and how would I fix it if it's not. So when you follow a like proven tag naming convention best practice, one that we actually deploy, we're able to look at someone's client journey and or their funnel and really hone in on like where something is broken so that we know where to go fix it. Because when you don't implement in a certain way, or when you implement without a proven way of implementation, very quickly it's just one big mess and you can't really identify if it's working or where are my leads right now. But if you do follow a specific naming convention and stick to that and your team uses it, it becomes like speaking a language. And I can go and look anywhere in my business and say, okay, here's where all of these leads are right now in real time. Here's where they've been. Here's what they've done. Here's the path that they took to get to the transaction. And this is the path that's working. And I can go modify. So it kind of gives you the intelligence of, how is this thing that I just deployed doing?
Yeah. I suppose what tagging really allows you to do as well is just kind of see those leaky parts of a funnel. I mean, if your funnel
100%.
are all these pipes kind of going around, there's going to be certain leaks in there, and those tags are just to help you identify, this is where the leak is. I need to tighten something up there.
Yeah.
So I suppose
Absolutely.
those listening right now, they need to maybe take a step back and start thinking about who their customer actually is. It's like, well, if I've got a service or a product to sell, then those who are ready to buy are, this particular person. But who was that person 6 months ago? And then who is that person maybe 6 months before that? And if you can start providing content for those different types of people on different stages of their journey, you're really able to optimize things, and you're really able to make sure they are converting when the time is right.
And as you move out to the people that are maybe 12 months away, and it doesn't have to be based on time, I'll go back to that, but these different entry points, really they just become, as they go from customer out to colder audiences, the level of commitment is a lot lower, right? Yeah. And the specificity on the problem becomes bigger, right? And so as they get, just like a funnel, right? Like you have shooting paint, and I always use this example. Maybe this example will help. So if I have, so I used to have sciatic back pain. I had a pinched nerve in my lower back that would hit my sciatic nerve, which the sciatic nerve runs down the side of your leg. So I would have shooting pain down my leg when I would bend forward. Now, before, at some stage, I didn't know of sciatica. All I knew was when I bend over, I have shooting pain down my leg, right? Why is that? So, like, if I'm sitting there and I don't know about sciatica yet, and I see an ad or a guide on how to cure sciatica, that's going right over my head, right? Sure. But if I have messaging and copy and advertising and lead magnets that, it's like, the 5 reasons you have shooting pain down your leg, like, that's going to capture my attention. Like, it's still vague. It's unclear. It's a symptom, right? I'm tapping into the symptom. Then once I'm like, oh, I have sciatica. Now I know what's causing the pain. Now I can go into solution seeking mode and start to learn about all of the things, like, why do I have sciatica? What are the causes of it? What are possible solutions? Becoming educated. So that's like, now that's content where a guide or a video series become more helpful, because you can go deep into what sciatica is, why you might have it, things that might have caused it, how to potentially solve it, remedies, right? And then that's when, once they know these things, they can make a purchasing decision, right? So think about from the symptoms to the pain to the risk, right? You're informed. The people that are buying, they pretty much just don't want to deal with what life will be like if they don't cure this problem or solve this or eliminate this pain. Like, I don't want to have surgery. I don't want to live the rest of my life like not being able to bend into a car, right? Like, that's what's going to make me pay for something. So those are kind of a way to look at the language gets more broad and helping people be aware of the problem, then identify what it is and the steps to solve it.
I think that's a really good analogy, a really good example to use, because, like you say, you can't give someone a solution if they don't even know that they've got a problem. They know that there's a problem out there somewhere, but until you kind of say to them, this is your problem, like, and this is how to solve it.
Right. And so, and to put that in perspective from like a business, right? So if I'm a chiropractor and I say I have whether it's a service or a course or something that gives people the solution and eliminates sciatica, right? Say that's what my offer is. There's a strong possibility that people that don't have sciatica right now will eventually have it. So, like, those are people that are going to be potential customers in the future. They're just not there yet because they haven't had the pain, right? Sure. So, like, it's just 1 step out, 2 steps out, 3 steps out in that customer journey of knowing that, hey, like, I know that people that do CrossFit are likely to have sciatica or something. So, like, now you're honing in on, like, what types of people, like, hey, do you have back pain because you're lifting too heavy of weight? That's talking out to the oblivious person, right? To get to them to the point of, oh, do you have shooting pain down your leg? Is this what you're experiencing? Oh, you have sciatica, right? Like, as a business owner that solves sciatic pain, like, my customers aren't only people that currently have sciatica. It's anyone that will ever have sciatica in the future. And there are certain people doing certain things, whether it's age, gender, certain types of activities, maybe professions that are more likely to end up having sciatica, which becomes my pool of potential customers. They're just not going to be customers just yet, right? Like, and but those are people I can start talking to, right? So once you have that in perspective, like, your audience becomes a whole lot bigger. You're just having a different conversation, slowly bringing them towards you.
Yeah. Nurture them, guys. So yeah, if you feel like you've got this unoptimized funnel and you're looking back now and you can honestly say, oh, I'm really just aiming at those people who are ready for the solution, take a step back, learn about your audience, think about the journey. I think you said it earlier, the customer journey that they go through over time, and start being relevant for the people, your customers, your pre-customers at different stages of the journey. And you don't have to just produce a product and sell to them at the very end. There's different ways for you you can sell to them in different stages of their journey, but you need to make sure you're selling them the right thing at the right time. So, I mean, it's been a fantastic. Thank you so much, Greg. I've learned a great deal from this. I'm sure those watching and listening have too. Where can we learn more about yourself and Systemly?
Yeah, you can go to system.ly, and then we also have just a free training that we do all the time, which is system.ly/webinar. And that's kind of, we take people through what we were just talking about in a little bit more in depth.
I encourage you to guys check it out, because you will probably see this whole sort of three-pronged attack in action. So much great content on Systemly's website. So go and check it out and see how they do it, because they are doing it. They don't just they don't just preach it, shall I say? They practice what they preach. And if you want to learn anything more about today's episode, all the links to Greg, links to my stuff, show notes, all that kind of thing, go to hardcoremba.com, search for Greg Hickman in the search bar, and it'll bring up this episode. And whilst there, be sure to check out Greg. I've got a little guide for you too, for me personally, so be sure to grab that. But that's pretty much it. I have been Matthew Turner, your host and the author of The Success Mistake. This has been Greg Hickman, one of the main guys at Systemly, and a guy who knows a thing or two about marketing automation. It's been a true pleasure having you on board. So Greg, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man.
This podcast is brought to you by MrOutsource.com. Outsourcing to the Philippines done for you. Mr. Outsource is a recruitment company matching busy entrepreneurs with Filipino virtual assistants, so you can have the time to focus on what's important.